Fala galera, bem-vindo, bem-vinda a este canal. E hoje você vai ouvir um pouquinho da Malala falando a respeito do
interesting to me. I think along with that, I think in professional life, again, you can bring in these skills. If it's, if you are a doctor, I think you do need your academic education. But if you are, I don't know, an entrepreneur, I don't know, you may not need as much of your academic education, but you would need the skills that you have developed there.
Let's talk about the Malala Fund. You are working in 8 countries, including Brazil. Tell us about your work in Brazil and also explain the main goals of Malala Fund, please.
So my father and I were activists in Swat Valley, and so we recognized the power of the activism at the local level. And when we started Malala Fund, the goal was clear and simple. It was to ensure that all girls can have access to education. But we know that it's not limited to just one country. We see that there is discrimination against girls all around the world. So we are working in 8 countries where we see that there are the highest number of girls out of school, but at the same time there's also a gender gap, a gender disparity in access to education. And Brazil is one of the countries where we work, and we also see how there are sort of minority groups where girls are less likely to reach to their to reach to college level, to complete their 12 years of education. And our focus is in Brazil, we are focusing on the indigenous communities and on the black communities of girls because of the difficulties that they face in accessing education. They are less likely to complete their schools. They are more likely to drop out and they're facing far more barriers when it comes to access to schooling. And we work with the activists in Brazil there who are focusing on these communities, but they're also pushing for national level policies to ensure that the government the government does not stop support for education. There's a financial commitment that we need for education, and I'm really grateful to the work of civil society in Brazil. They play a crucial role, and I think for me, I may not have answers to how to solve problems in Brazil, but I know that we can work together with the civil society. We can work together with the girls' education activists to create a society in Brazil where girls can have access to equal opportunities, and we need to ensure that we are reaching out to girls in the indigenous communities, in the rural communities, because they are facing more problems and more difficulties. They need attention, and they cannot be ignored. So this is the work in Brazil so far.
Let's talk about books. What books have had the most impact on you and why, in a professional sense?
I love reading books, and recently I have become part of a book club as well called Literati. So I get to read novels, fiction, and I like non-fiction as well, biographies. My all-time favorite book has been The Alchemist. That was one of the first books that I read. I also read, A Brief History of Time, and I used to just love physics, even though I had to read that book like 2-3 times just to understand it. And I'm sure if I read it again, I still won't get it. But that is something that I really enjoyed. I really enjoy books by women, and because the books in literature, especially in history, have been limited to men, and we don't see many by women, but it was because of the constraints that women have been facing, or because their work has not been recognized. So it's great to see that we have women authors, and they're writing biographies and novels and fiction, and I love reading their books. Recently, I read 50 Words for Rain. It's a book that is set in Japan, and it's about this young girl, and she is, she's very little, and she's trying to understand where she is, what is her place in society. She is, she doesn't know who her dad was and where he is, and how her skin color is sort of slightly different than everybody else that she sees in her community, and how she's then treated differently because of that, and how she is trying to, find that identity for herself, and many other books, like from Aftershocks, that was another one by Nadia that I really enjoyed. But I think in terms of like the professional work, I read articles as well. I like keeping an eye on the news, and I like to read about the economy and what's happening in politics, and so that's interesting always. I have read Winners Take All and Factfulness, and those books provide like different kind of perspective of how the world works and what is fair and what's not, and how happy we should be about the progress we are making. But yeah, I enjoy books, and I always think about writing a fiction or a novel or a book, and I feel like I have some stories in my mind, but I don't see it right now, but in future, why not? I'd love to be a novelist.
You talked earlier on about the importance of having people that girls admire, people that inspire. I mean, you inspire so many people. How important is learning from the people we admire, such as authors, scientists and entrepreneurs?
I think role models play a key role in your life. I personally have been inspired by the struggle and the journey of Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, and Bacha Khan, who is a Pashtun, political hero of ours, who fought for freedom against the British, and Benazir Bhutto, because she was the first female prime minister of Pakistan, and she was not just shattering the glass ceiling, but she was breaking the steel blocks right in front of her. So these are, it's not that they are ideally perfect people, right? We look at Gandhi and other people, and when you read their whole history, you may not find that they were all sort of so perfect, but they, the work that they have done for freedom, for equality, for democracy, it is applauded, and you can look at it you can look at the role of that individual and who they were, but you can also look at the work that they have done slightly separately as well, and you can learn from that. You can take an inspiration from that, how to start a movement, how to fight for a cause that you care about. And one thing that I have learned is that it's really important to be resilient, to be consistent, and to not give up too soon, because it takes time. And if you want to change a status quo, the people that you are challenging would want you to get tired. They would want you to give up soon. So as soon as you give up, you sort of already failed in your mission. You may not, when you are in that struggle, yes, you may not see the goals that you want to achieve that soon, but do not consider that as a failure, because that is part of your journey. So I think it's important that you keep on working hard, because you need to remind the system that you're fighting against. The goal is to ensure that they know that you are not going to give up, that you are on this mission, and that you are gonna make that change for as long as you are there and you are alive. And that's the commitment that I have made for girls' education, that for as long as I am alive and I'm here, I will fight for it till the last day, to ensure that we create a world where all girls can go to school. There are disappointments, you are like, every year these leaders, they don't make the financial commitments that they are supposed to make. Every year we have to wait. 130 million girls are out of school. We heard that number 4 or 5 years ago, and the number is still the same. So why is nothing changing? And yes, we are doing campaigns. So we have pushed for a lot of changes, and that have improved so many things. And at least people are not talking about girls' education. When I think back about 7 or 8 years ago, when I first started my campaign, I remember people were not even mentioning secondary education of girls. But the reality is that is the stage where many girls drop out of school because of the pressure that they face from their family, from the society. They leave their school either because their education is not considered important, or because they're married off at early ages. They do not have the secondary school. So many barriers that are there. But the focus was only on primary education. So, but at that time you're like, maybe nothing is sort of changing. But when you look back, you do see that you have seen a lot of progress, and if you hadn't been campaigning, it could have been worse. So you may not see the full results yet, but like, do remember that you're already making progress. And if you stop working on it, like, maybe that you are in a place where things just remain as they were, and not even a tiny bit.
What's next to come for you?